Wunderschönen guten Tag und herzlich willkommen bei Crowd Gaming. EVE Online ist durchaus bekannt. Das MMORPG ist nicht erst seit gestern auf dem Markt und der Entwickler CCP hat sich jetzt rangesetzt, mal ein neues Spiel im EVE Online-Universum zu entwickeln. Jeder würde jetzt erwarten, dass die ein zweites MMORPG entwickeln. Nein, tun sie nicht, denn sie entwickeln ein MMO-FPS. Das heißt tatsächlich ein First-Person-Shooter, der auch im EVE-Universum spielt. Und das Spannende an dem Spiel ist, dass sich EVE-Spieler und Dust 514-Spieler direkt austauschen können und fast direkt miteinander interagieren können. Wie genau das aussieht, das klären wir jetzt im Interview auf Crowd Gaming.
Dust 514 is the first-person shooter based in the EVE universe. How did you come to that idea? Why do you think that EVE players want to play a first-person shooter?
So it's not really about EVE players playing a first-person shooter. It's about that we have this great, deep sci-fi universe in EVE Online. But we recognize that EVE Online is a PC game that's quite complex. It's maybe not the... there are a lot of people that are interested in the EVE universe, but maybe wouldn't want to play EVE Online. And so what we're doing by bringing Dust, a AAA free-to-play first-person shooter, to the PlayStation 3 is giving people another way that they can access that universe in a different medium.
So you mentioned that these two games are connected to each other. What is the most interesting connection between those types? Do you have any like advantages for playing the game and in the other game?
Yes, so as a Dust mercenary, you're fighting on the planet surfaces for planets within the EVE universe, and the battles that you take part in have a persistent result. That the ownership of that particular planet will change depending on whether you win or lose the battle. One of the coolest interactions we have between the two games, though, is that you can form corporations with both Dust players and EVE players to work together. As a Dust mercenary, then on the ground, you can call in for support from EVE players in orbit around that same planet. You can paint a location perhaps where your enemy has called in a number of heavy tanks, call in support from the EVE player who can bombard the surface of that planet from within the EVE PC game. And of course, to make things fair, Dust mercenaries also are able to build orbital artillery on the planet surfaces in order to fire back at EVE players. So you have this real-time exchange of fire going on between the two games, which is really something that's revolutionary.
So you mentioned that players at the same time, that players of EVE are combined to players like Dust. But how do you make sure, or how do you encourage players who just like Dust or EVE to play the other game? Are there any advantages for the player himself?
We expect that actually players that play EVE and players that play Dust will be generally different people. We don't think there'll be too many people other than our really hardcore EVE players who will play both EVE and Dust at the same time. And really what we're looking to attract is those people that have a PlayStation 3, they love playing first-person shooters on the PS3, and they want a more deep and meaningful experience from their first-person shooter where the battles they take part in really matter, and they have the ability to customize and upgrade and improve the character that they play over time.
So we've talked about the connection between EVE and Dust. Let's focus on Dust himself. What makes it a unique like shooter on PS3?
So Dust on PS3, as you start to play as a shooter veteran, you'll find a lot of things that are very familiar to you. While there's a lot of depth there and a lot of additional meaning compared to what you get in other first-person shooter titles, our basic core mechanics, our game modes, all of the weapons and vehicles that you would expect to see in a first-person shooter are there. And the moment-to-moment gameplay we feel is really very strong indeed. But beyond that, the first thing that you'll notice really is just the level of customization that's available. We have a system we call fitting, which is similar to the fitting system exists in EVE Online. This allows you to take your Dust mercenary and configure him in a number of different ways, swapping out the types of weapon and equipment and modules that he has, so that you can really tailor that fitting to the way that you want to play the game. We also think that there's a lot of opportunities to play together with your friends in a squad. You can take complementary fittings into the battle. So maybe one of you wants to play as a heavy guy with a lot of armor and a close-up shotgun weapon who gets in close to people. And your buddy might play as a medic, and he's there to keep you healed as you take damage when you're going close to take out enemies. So there's a lot of opportunities there to customize your character and work together in a squad to achieve things that a lone wolf guy playing by himself wouldn't be able to do.
How important are vehicles in the game?
So vehicles are one of the core components of the game. We have 3 vehicle classes at the moment in the game. We're currently in closed beta and moving to open beta by the end of the year. We're going to be adding to the number of vehicle classes, but even those 3, there's an awful lot of variants and different options you've got there. So you might want to take a tank that's a balanced tank that works well against infantry and vehicles. We have tanks that are particularly suited to taking dropships out of the sky, and also things like a Black Ops HAV, which is able to cloak, so you can use it as a kind of stealth vehicle to get you and your squad in behind enemy lines. So yeah, there's an awful lot of interesting gameplay available there through the vehicle system we have.
What about game modes? Is it just deathmatch, or are you planning to implement Capture the Flag, King of the Hill, etc.?
So as well as the standard game modes that FPS players would expect, we also have a number of modes that are unique to Dust 514. At the moment in the beta, players are able to experience skirmish mode, where there are a number of control points out on the map. And each side fights for control of that in a 24 versus 24 player battle. And then going forward, we'll be adding new game modes, culminating in our Conquest game mode, where we'll have players fighting over a 25 square kilometer map. One player from each side will take the role of a commander, and they'll have a top-down view of the battlefield and be able to orchestrate proceedings, placing down objectives and calling in support to help the squads on the ground.
Sounds pretty interesting. Most important question, when will players out there will be able to play Dust 514?
So we're in closed beta at the moment, and players can go to our website, dust514.com, and sign up for that beta program. And we're putting out new builds on a fairly regular basis there. We also have a mercenary pack that's available on the PlayStation Store at the moment, which players can buy, and that gives them full access to the beta program. We're also going to be, by the end of the year, into our open beta, and at that point, anybody that has a PlayStation 3 can go to the PlayStation Store and download Dust 514 for free and be playing on their PlayStation 3.
Great, thank you very much.
There's one more question from the back. As for EVE Online, economy is extremely important for the EVE ecosystem. How does the appearance of ISK in Dust 514 influence the economy in EVE Online?
So you're right to say that the EVE economy is something it's very important to us. It's grown up over a number of years, and EVE players have invested an awful lot in making the EVE universe what it is. So we're determined not to cause any imbalance or breakages due to integrating Dust 514 into EVE Online. So to begin with, the economies are kept relatively separate, and the flow of ISK between the games comes from EVE corporations putting out contracts for Dust mercenaries to take over planets for them. And so you have Dust players receiving money from EVE players in that way. In the future, we'd hope to be able to open the economies up, integrate them a little more closely together, and over time we plan to do that. So we may be allowing things like player trading of items between the two games, or EVE corporations creating the very tanks and weapons that Dust players are using on the battlefield. But all that's to come at some point in the future that we haven't yet decided.
Okay, so once more, thanks a lot for the interview.